From beautiful New Orleans, where you are looking live at Manning's Sports Bar and Grill, right here on Fulton Street at Caesars in New Orleans, filled with memorabilia from Archie and Peyton and Eli's careers. And speaking of Eli Manning, to Canton we go. Let us first say congratulations to Antonio Gates, Eric Allen, Jared Allen, and Sterling Sharp, well-deserving members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2025. Now, noticeably absent is two-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning, who was a finalist in his first year of eligibility. We know he won the 2 Super Bowls, beating Brady both times. There was a lot of conversation leading up to this as to whether Eli would get in on his first ballot or not. Shefty, are you surprised that Eli Manning was not among those who was selected last night?
No, because he was a polarizing pick, and there were people that felt very strongly that he was a Hall of Famer, and there were people that felt he wasn't. And when there's that much debate and that much division, inevitably, you're not going to get in on the first try. Eli Manning is going to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
He is a Hall of Famer. When I was a voter briefly, the one thing that people said is, can you write the history of the sport without this person? And Eli Manning is a 2-time Super Bowl MVP who twice put down the Patriots and prevented them from having an undefeated season. You can't write the history of the sport in recent years without Eli Manning, which is why he's going to go. He just didn't go in his first year of eligibility.
Dan, your thoughts?
I would have thought he was a lock for his first timer.
Yep.
I think Shefty makes that great point of the conversation. Can you tell the story of the NFL and the history of it without that person? The answer definitively is no for Eli Manning. And my big gripe with it, and I agree he'll get in, my big gripe with it is this. A lot of the conversation that we have around quarterbacks is everybody attaching Super Bowl. So how many rings did you get? If we are going to constantly do that, then how are we picking and choosing which guys we don't necessarily weigh it the same way for? The 2 Super Bowl runs, 7 out of his 8 wins on the road, 260 yards a game. He beat Brady twice. He beat Favre once. He beat Rodgers once. I mean, Eli Manning, the journey to go get those 2 Super Bowls, beat some all-time greats. I just don't understand how we quantify, well, Eli's other stats don't matter as much as these stats for certain guys. It's stupid.
Let me just say this. He was a 4-time Pro Bowl selection. I am of the school that Eli belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I'll get there. 4-time Pro Bowl.
I know what you're
Jeff Saturday went to 6. Jeff Saturday's not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
I'd vote for Jeff.
I would vote for Jeff.
I would put Jeff in the Pro Bowl.
I appreciate that. I wish you could get a vote. Maybe they'll give you one. That'd be
Jeff
good.
should unquestionably be in the Hall of Fame. So you want me to give you my stuff now?
for sure.
Okay, so I did an essay when Eli Manning retired on how he should be a lock first ballot Hall of Famer, and I am flabbergasted that he did not get in. So I went back and looked up the numbers that I had. All of these were applicable as of the time that he retired. He is one of 6, well, I added the 6th one now. So he's one of 6 players with multiple Super Bowl MVPs. The others are Brady, Mahomes, Montana, Bradshaw, and Bart Starr. He won more playoff games than Steve Young or Jim Kelly. He won more road playoff games than his brother or Brady or Brett Favre. He beat Favre and Rodgers at Lambeau. At the time, those were 2 of the 5 losses the Packers ever had at home in the playoffs. During his 2 Super Bowl runs, he was 15 touchdowns and 2 picks. When he retired, he was 8th in history in passing yards and 7th in touchdowns in a terrible stadium for throwing the football. Those are the numbers on Eli Manning. I do not understand for a second how he did not get into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I mean, he's going to get in. We all know he's going to get in. I think it's kind of ridiculous to argue whether he deserves it or not because you choose what metrics you want. You've decided that, which I'm not saying it as a pejorative or negative in any way. I'm saying that sometimes, because like 2 Super Bowl wins, you would say Jim Plunkett deserves to be in, but he's not in. It hasn't worked for that. And sometimes
he wasn't the MVP of either of them for whatever.
But I mean, it's still you were hanging out by. So that's what I mean. You move the goalpost, which is fine.
No,
that's what you want to do.
It's providing context.
You start to pick things that you think are more important for this person that are less important for other people. It's like who he beat matters now. That's not something that we did in the past. Talking about you can't tell a history. That, like, I understand why people say that, but you could pick any number of random NFL Super Bowl MVPs and like you can't tell the history without this MVP. So every Super Bowl MVP is someone who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? Don't make me start Googling, Dan. Like, I'm just saying that he deserves.
You cannot tell the history of the NFL and certainly the Super Bowl without Eli.
Let me get Jeff in.
So here's the thing. I'm with everybody. I did not think he was going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer for the same reason why Shefty did. But I'll say this: he was never an All-Pro. He, to your point, 4 pros, never all decade, right? When you go through all of it, never had an MVP vote. never had a passer rating higher than 7th when he was playing. Like, there was a lot of things. So you go through the contemporaries, right? Brady, Breeze, Rivers, Ben, Russell Wilson, Stafford. Like, how many of those guys are going to go in the Hall of Fame?
All
right?
of them.
And so when you're looking at it, he will. But, like, how does he differentiate between those guys? Are they all first ballots? Yeah. So that's the difference. The difference
my man wait a year.
Is it first ballot versus – because he's a Hall of Famer, there's no doubt.
Quickly, Shefty wants to make 1 point on a bigger snub last night.
I know Eli didn't get in, but there were voters. We talk about moving the goalposts. The voters brought 5 senior category finalists
man, this
in.
is bad.
Okay? Maxie Bond, Jim Tyrer, Mike Holmgren, Ralph Hay, and Sterling Sharp. Sterling Sharp gets in. So what these voters did is they brought these people in their final chance to the precipice, the footsteps of Canton, Ohio. And then told Maxie Bond, Jim Tyrer, Mike Holmgren, Ralph Hay, after saying, you're good enough to be right there to get in.
Right.
You're not going in.
Right.
You're not going to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You're not good enough, and you will not be good enough ever.
Yeah.
That is embarrassing and disgraceful.
Yep.
The point is, they didn't have to make them finalists. That should be rubber stamped. If you get them
it
to
always
this point,
was rubber stamped. The majority of the people, 4 of these people, because they changed the rules somehow that I still don't understand, 4 of these people were basically brought right there. Most people
Mike
thought they get in.
Holmgren's not getting in?
He didn't get in.
He did not.
He did not get in.
Because next year could be Kraft. It could be like they just rotate. So it's to Shefty's point. It's.
I mean, if we're putting all our snub complaints on here, like Mike Shanahan, the whole NFL is
don't get me started.
based on Mike
Shanahan.
Shanahan's offense. Like,
How about
that's a
this?
great point. Like,
My
that's a
man-
guy who should be in there.
Darren Woodson.
Well,
Great
Yeah.
point.
Be-
I saw him.
Just Saturday, put Saturday in the
Reggie
Hall of
didn't get
Fame.
in. They put
Reggie did
Ralph
not
Hay.
get in.
They put
Reggie
Ralph
did not
Hay
get
in
in.
ahead of Robert Kraft this year, and then didn't put Ralph Hay in. They
Hey.
put Mike Holmgren ahead of Mike Shanahan, and didn't put Mike Shanahan.
How is Reggie Wayne not in?
Thank you. Preach.
Okay, well,
Reggie,
now we've
Darren.
gotten a little bit far afield.
No, we're
Hall of
being-
Fame, speaking of which, more history made last night here at the big night last night, as we first say congratulations to the 4 men who were voted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Congratulations, Antonio Gates, Eric Allen, Jared Allen, and Sterling Sharp. Honors beyond belief. They are in the Hall of Fame. Eli Manning is not among the noticeably absent names last night. He was a finalist in his first year of eligibility. We know he won the 2 Super Bowls, beating Brady both times, and he is, of course, a proud son of this city of New Orleans. So I know the fans here were upset that Eli did not get in. We have not heard your opinion on it yet. RC, what was your take on Eli Manning not making it?
God bless the people in the room who had common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
And I think Eli Manning will get into the Hall of Fame. I think you look at those 2 runs to the Super Bowl and the way that he played, the plays that he made, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. I think if you're a first ballot Hall of Famer, that if Jeff Saturday's in the room, Dominique Foxworth is in the room, Dan Orlovsky's in the room, and they say your name in that room, we should all raise our hands and say he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It should be the Barry Sanders of the world.
Yes.
It should be some of these guys who are the transcendent talents at the position, or at least if you played against them, their name was a priority on the game plan. When you played against Eli Manning, as good as he was in times he needed to be, we didn't game plan for Eli Manning. The conversation you had about him, and I don't want to be disrespectful because this is not a conversation I'll be a part of as a player. The conversation you had about Eli Manning is he's going to throw you a couple, just catch them. And that doesn't mean that he wasn't a good football player, but when you play in an era where names like Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and even the Ben Roethlisbergers of the world, the Steve McNairs, all those names come before you when we talk about the players of that era that were the best at their position. If you were never considered in 1 year the best player at your position, how do you walk into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot guy? There should not be a discussion. When Peyton Manning's presenter got on the Zoom or whatever it was, I'm sure he didn't have to convince a lot of people. I would walk up and I would go, I present to you Peyton Manning, and everybody would say aye. That's what a first ballot Hall of Fame is.
Shefty.
Eli Manning is going to go in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And when in the brief years that I was a voter, we always said, can you write the history of the game without this person? If you can, they're not a Hall of Famer. If you can't, then they are. And Eli Manning is somebody that won 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He is the quarterback who helped stop the Patriots from an unbeaten season. He made some of the most memorable throws in Super Bowl history. Yes, there are only 4 Pro Bowls, and Jeff Saturday went to 2 more than Eli Manning himself, and Jeff Saturday is still waiting for his call into Cannes. But Eli Manning is going to be a Hall of Famer. It just is unfortunate it didn't happen in his home city here in New Orleans.
Yeah, in my opinion, Eli Manning should have been a lock first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't understand how we have the conversation around quarterbacks so much and their career accomplishments, and we attached it so often to Super Bowls, and he's got 2 of them, and there's not a ton of people quarterback-wise who have 2 of them, and we don't put him in to the Hall of Fame in the first ballot. Also, you mean to tell me if Eli had 1 All-Pro, he would have gotten in first ballot? Like that 1 All-Pro, even though he played in the era with RC labeled them off, the Peytons, the Toms, the Drews, the Bens. Like he played in an era where 4 or 5 other kind of all-time greats are a part of his story as well. So him not making first-team All-Pro shouldn't deduct him. He's top 14 all-time in the history of wins, in the history of the league. Like, I don't understand how he's not allowed.
Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, the argument when we start counting people's Super Bowl trophies, we do that for a particular class of quarterbacks. We never did that for Eli because he wasn't that class of quarterback. We looked up and he had 2 Super Bowls. We were not like, hey, how many Super Bowls does Eli have? And then arguing that he was in an era with great quarterbacks is a reason to put him in.
All-time great quarterbacks.
I'm sorry. So, like, all right, well, then we should give Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen Super Bowl rings because Patrick Mahomes is around. You're making the point that because he was not as good as these great guys that we should put him in the Hall of Fame. He's going to get in. The idea that I think that RC summed it up pretty well when he said the first ballot guys is a guy who we say presenting Peyton Manning. Everybody else say we good.
Right.
Yeah. And they sit back.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that. It's the first ballot part. And in this conversation, I've heard this conversation happen quite a bit over the past few years, so you knew it wouldn't be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Because when that discussion happens, that means the guy is not going to go in the first. He will go in the Hall of Fame. He will deserve to go in the Hall of Fame. But as a first ballot Hall of Famer, I agree. I think there was way too many disagreements on, is it about Super Bowls? Is it about numbers? He was never all-decade. He was never all-pro. He never got an MVP vote. So when you talk about a first ballot Hall of Famer, they got a separate shrine in that room, right? Like that's the way I look at those kind of guys too, right? The Brady, Peyton, like when you have those kind of the Larry Allens for me, right? That's a different man. Like when you think about those guys, they carry a different weight when they walk in the hall when they're a first ballot all the way.
And I respect that.
Yeah.
But I do also understand that during the heart of Eli Manning's career, he was on the field with 3 other quarterbacks that will go down as 3 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the history.
Yeah.
But what I think has to happen in that is you have to compare Eli to those people as well. And obviously you walk into the Hall of Fame as an individual, but if Tom Brady could have this success in this era, if Aaron Rodgers could have this success in this era, Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, if all of these guys are playing in the same exact era and they are more successful than you, they are better individual players than you, their accolades stack up against yours in a way that yours can't compete. I think that goes into how dominant you were in your time as well. Eli Manning is a Hall of Famer. It's okay that he's not a first ballot Hall of Famer. The jacket will still be his gold.
Very quickly, his accolades stack up a lot better than I think we're making it sound like in here. He's one of 6 players with multiple Super Bowl MVPs. He won more playoff games. This is all from an essay I did when he retired. Won more playoff games than Steve Young or Jim Kelly, more road playoff games than his brother or Brady or Favre. He beat Brady in the 2 Super Bowls in those runs. He was 15 touchdowns, 2 picks. When he retired, he was 8th all-time in passing yards and
how many games did he lose? How many times did he throw the ball? Like I don't.
He played in a terrible stadium for throwing the football.
Here's the thing: I don't want to be the guy that's arguing against Eli because I like Eli and I think Eli is a good player, a very good player. I believe Eli is a Hall of Famer. There is no way we're going to sit up here and talk about those numbers and stack them up against those dudes because I played them all.
Yeah, I'm about to see the clock. We could continue this conversation probably for the rest of our lives, and we will. But coming up, we're getting back.
How's it going, everybody? Villa Sports Network here. Just want to thank you guys for your support on the channel. Thank you guys for watching the video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Also want to kind of remind you to don't forget to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment on the video if you like as well. But regardless of the fact, thank you again for your support, and hope to see you on the next video.